report. So, Mr. Speaker,
Order. I regret that I have to cut the member from Vancouver Quadra off, but she will have 3 minutes remaining when this matter returns before the House after question period. Déclaration de député.
Statements by members.
The honourable member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, with the First Minister's meeting in Ottawa, the third party is eager to deflect attention away from the wasteful record of their Ontario cousins. The report by the Auditor General, Bonnie Lysyk, into the smart meter hydroelectricity confirmed the fault lies with a high electricity rate policy known as the Green Energy Act, developed by the same small clique of advisors who have fled Toronto and now surround the inexperienced leader of the federal party in Ottawa. Just like the federal Liberal gun registry that ended up costing billions of dollars, the smart meters have already reached almost $2 billion, $1 billion over budget and still climbing. Their carbon tax, called the Global Adjustment, has caused an increase in bills of almost 1,200% right now from 2006, while the average market price of electricity has dropped by 46%. Ontario Hydro customers are actually paying to have U.S. customers take our excess electricity. Again, the reason I mention this here is that the architects of the provincial carbon tax are now the key advisors to the Liberal Party. And just as they transformed Ontario from the economic engine of Canada into a have-not province, so too will they do this to our country.
The honourable member for Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On January 29th, 1635, 380 years ago today, the Académie Française was officially created in Paris under the aegis of Cardinal Richelieu, who gave his name not only to the rushing river that irrigates our beautiful riding, but also the city of Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu. He wanted the immortal sages of this noble institution defend and perfect our French language so that francophones from all walks of life could speak a beautiful language. The Académie Française doesn't belong only to Parisians. It belongs to francophones worldwide, from Port-au-Prince to Brussels, Algiers to Quebec City, and all the francophone communities of Canada. It was a great honor for Quebec and for Haiti when, in 2013, Dany Laferrière received the ultimate honor of becoming the first Quebecer and the first Haitian to become one of the Immortels. So, long life to the Académie Française.
The honourable member for Prince Albert.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to congratulate Mr. Don Lipchuk and all members of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 122 in Birch Hills for hosting the Royal Canadian Legion Dominion Curling Championship later on this year, March 15th to 19th. This follows closely on the heels of the success they had in hosting the Saskatchewan Legion's Provincial Championship in 2012. Curling was introduced in Legion in 1952 to encourage friendship, sportsmanship, and physical fitness. The Dominion Command Sports Committee oversees the competition at all levels, from local bonspiels to provincial championships, all of which lead to the annual National Dominion Championship, which will be held in Birch Hills this year. This is the first time the National Dominion Championship has been hosted by a small town such as Birch Hill, and I know it'll be a huge success. I am very much looking forward to attending, and I would like to wish the best to all the participants. Happy sweeping.
The honourable member for Ottawa-Vanier. Mr. Speaker, last month, Ms. Caroline Andrews, a constituent of mine in Ottawa-Vanier and director of the Centre on Governance of the University of Ottawa, was inducted into the Order of Canada, our highest distinction. Ms. Andrews has been working for a long time to disseminate Canadian cultural diversity, notably with the Ontario Francophone community. She's recognized for her contribution to urban studies and women's studies, as well as her social commitment. She was Dean of the Faculty of Social Science from 1997 to 2005, yet she remains a genuine and humble person. Because of her activity throughout her career and her commitment in the community, Ms. Andrews' efforts have had a positive impact on the evolution of our community. Being inducted in the Order of Canada is an excellent way to recognize the scope and effect of her contribution. Bravo, Caroline. On my own behalf and that of my colleagues, I offer my sincerest congratulations and wishes for your success in future endeavors.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many people who are living with a mental illness report that the negative stereotypes about mental illness cause them more suffering than the illness itself. As a result, 2/3 of those suffering from mental illness are too afraid to seek the help that they need. Mental illness affects people of all ages and from all walks of life. It can take many forms, including depression, anxiety, and suicidal tendencies. The stigma is a key barrier that stops people from seeking help. Stigma surrounded many diseases in the past. Can you imagine someone feeling ashamed for having cancer or scorning people with cancer? But concerted efforts to confront these attitudes resulted in a change for the better around these physical diseases, including better treatment, more funding for research, and greater understanding from family, friends, and colleagues. The goal is to achieve the same level of acceptance of understanding regarding mental illness. Something as simple as being nice can save a life. Let's talk about mental illness.
L'honorable député de...
Honourable Member for Terrebonne-Blainville. Mr. Speaker, we found out yesterday the Communication Security Establishment of Canada daily examines up to 15 million documents shared online without a warrant or consent from Internet users. Even if the government refuses to admit it, yesterday's revelations demonstrate that since 2012, the surveillance program has targeted Canadians, and that's prohibited by law. The Minister of National Defence said in this House in 2013, I want to repeat that the CSE does not target the communications of Canadians. The Minister lied to the public, Mr. Speaker. In the NDP, we don't think that increased security should exist to the detriment of privacy. We have to strike a balance and be accountable to Canadians. We understand that. The government does not. One thing is clear. Canadians can trust the NDP to ensure security while guaranteeing privacy.
Or Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge Mission.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor constituent Mike Sands, who passed away this month, 4 years after being diagnosed with ALS, a terrible disease that also claimed my grandfather's life many years ago. Mike, a psychiatric nurse, was an active, athletic, politically engaged community volunteer who also made trips to Malawi, Africa with Project Wellness to improve the lives of orphans by drilling wells for clean drinking water. Mike lived life energetically and enthusiastically, but perhaps his greatest impact on those of us who knew him was his incredible courage and determination to embrace life in the face of death from a cruel, debilitating disease. His wife, Nadine, in her upcoming book, provides an inspiring account of how the family held on to faith, hope, and love as they learned to let go. Mr. Speaker, I invite my colleagues to honor Mike Sands' life by making a commitment to do all we can to find a cure for ALS.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to rise in the House today to recognize a great example of small business in my riding of South Shore St. Margaret's. Nautel Limited, headquartered in the community of Hackett's Cove since 1969, manufactures and designs high-powered transmitters for radio and TV stations and navigation equipment for airports in the offshore. A company known for its innovative products, Nautel is a Nova Scotian and Canadian export success story. Shipping to over 177 countries worldwide, during its 46 years in business, the company has contributed over $500 million to the Nova Scotian and Canadian economies. Nautel has been recognized as a Profit 500 company, as a Passion Capitalist winner, and most recently as Halifax's Business of the Year. All this from a rural company located on the shores of St. Margaret's Bay near the scenic landmark of Peggy's Cove. Congratulations to the management and employees of Nautel. Well done.
The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard.
A lot of it will be happening in the West Island of Montreal. Here are some ideas to show your love for your community. On February 7th, Associazione Italo-Canadese del West Island will be celebrating Valentine's Day and the 22nd anniversary of the founding of their association. Le 10 février, c'est la...
On February 10th, it's the 14th edition of the St. Valentine's Breakfast for the RBC for Partage Action.
15th annual Valentine's Day Breakfast on February 12th. Le 13 février.
On 13th of February, we will have the annual St. Valentine's Ball for the palliative care residents in the West Island. Congratulations to all organizers, volunteers, and participants for their dedication to the community. I hope everyone wears their heart on their sleeve on St. Valentine's Day. Please join us.
The honourable member for Mississauga-Arundel.
Mr. Speaker, manufacturing remains critical to our nation's economy and achieving long-term prosperity. Nowhere is this more apparent than in southern Ontario. Our government, under the leadership of this Prime Minister, is ensuring that Ontario's manufacturing sector is benefiting from our support. While the opposition parties have turned their backs on the hardworking families of southern Ontario, our government continues to create jobs and stand up for them. In fact, just last week, Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Liberal Party said he wanted to transition away from manufacturing-based employment as a driver of the economy. Canadians deserve better. Comments like this show that the Liberal leader is an economic novice who is not capable of managing the Canadian economy. Mr. Speaker, that's why the economic leadership of our government will continue to create jobs, foster economic growth, and ensure long-term prosperity for all Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we live in a complex and challenging world. This is no time for amateurs.
The Honourable Member for Compton-Stansted. Last week I had an opportunity to visit companies that work in the sector of granite in Stansted. They either produce kitchen counters or monuments and cenotaphs. I had a chance to talk with the directors of Granite Design, Rock of Ages, and Rouleau Granit, and saw how dynamic these businessmen and women are. The Stansted Journal is the oldest weekly in Quebec, founded in 1845. Its archives and plaques are at the Colby Curtis Museum across the street. We have the Haskell Opera House, built in 1901. And then there's the Pat Burns Arena, Lapin Stansted, Granite Central, the Granite Museum with 160 years of history, the Lionel Train Museum with the largest collection of miniature trains in Canada. Stansted is a great place to live. Congratulations to the players contributing to this vitality.
Rosetown Bigger.
Mr. Speaker, I've heard from many families in my riding of Saskatoon-Rosetown Bigger who are pleased with our fantastic new family tax cut plan and benefits. Every single family in my riding and across Canada will benefit by an average of over $1,100 per year. Parents in Canada will now receive almost $2,000 per child and $720 for older children. While our plan helps 100% of families with kids, the NDP plan helps only 10% of families. The Liberal leader has pledged to reverse our tax cuts and threatened to do exactly what Liberal Party elites always do, raise taxes for ordinary Canadians. Unlike the NDP and the Liberals, who will take this money away from Canadian families and put it into the pockets of big bureaucracy, our Conservative government believes Canadians should keep more of their hard-earned money. And with our family tax cut plan and benefits, we're proud to be doing just that.
The honourable member for Etobicoke North.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to celebrate Etobicoke North's extraordinary and unstoppable Dee Gordon, who today completed walking over 500 kilometres to raise awareness for autism spectrum disorder. While Dee walked, her son Tim drove the support truck, and together this mother-son team collected thousands of signatures to ask the federal government for a pan-Canadian autism strategy. Dee does not want other Canadian families to have to fight for early diagnosis, affordable treatment programs, and support programs the way she has had to fight for her amazing son, Jacob. She hopes the government will implement recommendations of the 2007 Senate report called Pay Now or Pay Later. Dee, your children, Tim, Crystal, and Jacob, and Aunt Mary are proud of you. Our office and our community are proud of you and your tremendous undertaking for Canadian families. I ask all members to join me in recognizing Dee Gordon and the Walk to Ottawa.
Honourable member for Selkirk,
I have no idea who am I clapping for. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal leader suggested that we should only provide military support to our allies if the outcome is known and only if others are doing the heavy lifting. This is an insult to the brave men and women who took Vimy Ridge, who stormed the beaches of Normandy, and who battled the Taliban in Kandahar. On those hallowed fields, Canadians fought tyranny against insurmountable odds. Well, now the Liberal Party has sunk to new lows. According to the Hill Times, a member for York West suggested that ISIL may attack Canadians because the Prime Minister put us in that position. The events of late October are proof that these jihadi terrorists have declared war on us. It's not the other way around. It's beyond reprehensible to suggest that since we are supporting our allies in this fight against brutality, that Canada and Canadians deserve what we get. Statements like this prove the Liberal Party is not capable of protecting Canadians. They have a dangerously naive view of the world and the threat posed by jihadist terrorism. The Liberals don't have the resolve, strength, determination, or leadership that is needed to fight ISIL. Thankfully, Canadians can count on us.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's brand new web capsule is not very subtle. It's electoral campaigning paid with taxpayers' money. That's unacceptable. The Conservatives are using the fear of terrorism and military iconography to promote their partisan agenda and the war in Iraq. I don't think that our military are happy to know that they're being used, especially when we see what happens to our veterans. Not only is this advertising in poor taste, but this is a waste of taxpayers' funds. The Prime Minister should spend less time in a studio recording propaganda and more time creating jobs and helping our economy. This video completely illustrates how the Prime Minister is disconnected from the needs of Canadians. Our leader is ready to take over. This week he presented a responsible plan to help the manufacturing sector and create jobs. This government is nearing its end. After 2015, the Prime Minister can spend all his time making movies.
Wild Rose. Mr. Speaker, our Conservative government is delivering an unprecedented package of benefits to hardworking families through the expanded universal childcare benefit and the family tax cut plan.
Absolutely.
In my riding, in places like Airdrie, Cochrane, Crossfield, Olds, Canmore, and Banff, and in communities all across Canada, the vast majority of these benefits will go to low and middle income families.
Absolutely.
And 100% of them will benefit from our plan.
100%.
But time and time again, the Liberals and their NDP comrades have made it clear that they want to take this help away from Canadians.
Right.
Shame on them, Mr. Speaker.
Shame, Wayne.
On this side of the House, our Conservative government stands with hard-working Canadian families.
Hear, hear. Oral questions. Questions orales. The Honourable Member for Hamilton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, another foreign takeover approved by the Conservatives and another round of pink slips for Canadian workers. Hundreds of staff summarily fired at Tim Hortons headquarters are just the latest sad reminder of the Conservatives' failure to protect Canadian jobs. Many of these people had put their whole careers into this company only to be let go with no notice when the new foreign owners swept in. Why did the Conservatives yet again fail to stand up for Canadian workers and their jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course, anytime someone loses their job, we feel a great sorrow for those who are going to be affected by that. But what, of course, the member for Hamilton leaves out is that because of this foreign investment into this firm, Tim Hortons is now going to expand with over 500 new restaurants in Canada, creating jobs all across this country. They're also going to be moving Burger King from Florida up to Canada and launching a global platform creating jobs in Canada and around the world. So foreign investment into Canada that creates jobs in Canada and allows Canada to be a true leader on the international scene in terms of job creation and growth is something that Canadians should be proud of, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Centre.
So, if I get this right, losing jobs is good news for the Canadian economy, according to the Conservatives. Hundreds are being shown the door with no warning, yet this minister expects congratulations because he signed a secret deal to only fire 20% of the staff. Conservatives rubber stamp these deals with no transparency and have a record of failure when it comes to holding these companies to account when they break their promises. Just ask any of the thousands of former Stelco workers in my hometown of Hamilton. When will the Conservatives stop signing secret deals like this that consistently sell out Canadians and their jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Well, of course, that's ridiculous, Mr. Speaker. As I just said, this is an investment into Canada, and those people at the head office who unfortunately are going to be getting difficult news, of course, our hearts go out to them, Mr. Speaker, but this is an investment that will allow a company to grow in Canada. And had this investment not happened, Mr. Speaker, the situation actually might be significantly worse for the employees of this firm. But because we have low taxes in this country, it's 46% lower taxes in this country to create a business than is the case in the United States. Jobs in Canada are being created. We have almost 1.2 million net new jobs have been created in Canada. And because of this investment, Tim Hortons is going to grow by over 500 new outlets.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Central.
Well, Speaker, as layoffs continue to pile up even higher, Conservative economic credibility is dropping even lower. Canada just had its worst year of job growth since 2009, and plunging oil prices and federal downloads are set to tear multi-billion-dollar holes in provincial budgets. Mr. Speaker, with the health of our economy and the jobs of so many Canadians at stake, why does the Prime Minister continue his political petulance and refuse to even meet with the Council of the Federation?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary of the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you know, the Prime Minister and the members of this Cabinet regularly meet with their provincial and territorial counterparts. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has held over 300 meetings with provincial and territorial premiers since taking office in 2006, Mr. Speaker. With respect to the economy, of course, the economy continues to grow. We're very proud of the fact that close to 1.2 million Canadians are working now who weren't before, Mr. Speaker. The economy continues to grow. It is a very positive record. We're balancing the budget, growing the economy while cutting taxes for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That's good news for all Canadians, and the opposition is to celebrate that with us.
The Honourable Member for Hull-Aylmer. The provincial premiers are meeting in Ottawa to talk about the economic crisis rocking the country and job instability. They're talking about energy, infrastructure, trade barriers, and the dismal state of the labour force. There are job losses, bankruptcies. So why isn't the Prime Minister attending this meeting? What's more important than working with the provinces to kickstart employment in this country? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I already said, the Prime Minister meets his provincial counterparts on a regular basis. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, he has met them more than many times since.
Creation and economic numbers in this country are spectacular. Spectacular because we do work with our provincial and municipal partners, Mr. Speaker. We brought in one of the largest stimulus and infrastructure programs in Canadian history. We did that by working with our provincial and municipal partners, Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that the Liberals and NDP voted against it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hull-Aylmer. And we can see the results with Tim Hortons, Mr. Speaker. Nearly 400 employees will be losing their jobs following the merger with Burger King. From 20 to 40% of employees in Montreal, Oakville, Calgary, Debert, Kingston, and Langley will be laid off. What's worse is that the Conservatives ratified the agreement despite warnings from the NDP. They refused at the time to disclose the details. How can the Conservatives be complicit in a deal like this at the expense of Tim Horton employees? The Honourable Minister. That is not at all the case, Mr. Speaker. As I just said in English earlier, some will lose their jobs in Oakville and elsewhere. It's very sad for them and their families. And it's our job as the government to ensure that we are working on creating jobs in the country for each region of the country, Mr. Speaker.
This transaction and this investment. Had this investment not happened, more jobs would have been lost. It's important for the NDP to understand that drawing investment into this country to allow Tim Hortons to expand by over 500 more franchises, which will create more jobs in Canada, is good for the Canadian economy in the long run.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Laurent-Cartierville. Mr. Speaker, Since Laurier, the Prime Ministers of Canada have felt the need to meet with their provincial counterparts at regular intervals, all together, in addition to the bilateral meetings. It goes without saying in all civilized federations. It goes without saying except for the current Prime Minister. Why doesn't he see, given the drop in the price of oil and economic uncertainty, that he must meet with his provincial counterparts to develop a joint plan in order to join all of the forces in our federation? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
The Prime Minister has held over 300 meetings with his provincial and territorial counterparts. The members of this cabinet continuously meet, and so do the members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. We meet with our provincial and municipal counterparts, Mr. Speaker. And let's look at the results, Mr. Speaker. We brought in the largest economic stimulus and infrastructure program in Canadian history by working with our provincial partners. They say we couldn't do it. We did it. We reformed our immigration system to better respect Canada and the provinces. They say we couldn't do it. We did it. We increased funding to our provincial partners with respect to health and education. They said that we couldn't do it. We did it while balancing the budget, cutting taxes, Mr. Speaker. We act, they talk.
The honourable member for Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, when the Governor of the Bank of Canada says a collapsing energy sector is unambiguously negative, when investment, exports, jobs and growth are all slumping, when the Conference Board projects the risk of a recession in Alberta, and the Parliamentary Budget Officer says federal revenue will drop by $8 billion this year, why is the Prime Minister not working with the Premiers this week on a truly national effort to cope with issues seemingly so serious that they caused his budget to be delayed into the next fiscal year? Why snub the Premiers?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. We've held over, as I said, 300 meetings with our provincial partners, Mr. Speaker. But again, let's look at some of the results, Mr. Speaker. When we said that we wanted to bring in a new national job grant that would help Canadians seeking employment across the country, we wanted to do it while working with our provincial partners. They said we couldn't do it. We did it, Mr. Speaker. That's the record on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to building a bigger, better, stronger, more prosperous Canada, we get the job done. They talk.
The honourable member for Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, snubbing the Premiers only underscores a dysfunctional relationship. A critical thing that they should be doing together is accelerating infrastructure. But this government missed most of last summer's construction season. They punched a $1.5 billion hole into the Building Canada Fund. 75% of new funding is punted beyond 2019, but it's not too late. Cancel income splitting for the wealthy, put that $10 billion into infrastructure, call the Premiers over to dinner tonight and get infrastructure going before spring.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Infrastructure.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. In actual fact, this Conservative government is making unprecedented investments in infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. This high level of investment will continue for the next decade. These infrastructure investments are creating jobs, they're creating prosperity, they're enhancing our growth and prosperity. Contrast that with the Liberal approach, Mr. Speaker, who hope through hocus pocus that the budget will balance itself, but instead we know they will hike taxes, run a deficit, and leave a burden of debt to our kids and our grandkids.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski, Najeta-Misquata-Lebasque. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are not in a good position at all to talk about collaboration with the federal, with the provinces, because they offloaded deficits to the provinces and dismantled the healthcare system in this country. The Conservatives can talk about all kinds of action that they've taken, but the reality is it's not working. We've lost 500,000 jobs in the manufacturing sector for 10 years, over the past 10 years, despite to their meager assistance and lovely press releases. Their so-called action plan is simply not working. Is it too much to ask the Prime Minister to show a little humility, to sit down with the provinces so that we can kickstart the economy and employment in this country?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, we are working with the provinces on infrastructure, for example. We have an agreement with all provinces across the country to invest in infrastructure across this country. I've worked with Jacques A., our free trade assistant in this country, to work on interprovincial trade and internationally. I've worked with the province of Ontario, Brad Duguid, my counterpart, to ensure that the manufacturing sector will make gains in this province as well. So we always work with the provinces to achieve gains for Canadian families and the Canadian economy. The Honourable Member for Beauharnois-Salaberry. Mr. Speaker, free trade is good, but reciprocity is even better. The Conservatives aren't vigilant enough when it comes time to protecting our manufacturing sector. The steel industry, for example, represents 17,000 jobs in Quebec. With the increase in the number of protectionist clauses put in place by the Americans, think about the Buy American Act, our exports have dropped by 18%. What's the government waiting for to ensure that trade with our partners, our foreign partners, is based on a real win-win relationship? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, we are going to protect the interests of our manufacturers and job creation with our free trade position. Mr. Speaker.
Conservative government, we of course will take no lessons from New Democrats when it comes to free trade, expanding free trade, and ensuring that we're creating Canadian jobs through world sales and free trade. You know, we are the only country in the world that has tariff-free access to the two largest economies in the world, the United States and Europe. We have gone from having free trade agreements with 5 countries now to 43 countries around the world. We are expanding free trade opportunities, creating Canadian jobs through world sales, and of course with all of these free trade deals we have New Democrats dragging their feet, saying no, and opposing free trade. We will continue to lead, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Lambert. Mr. Speaker, another example of Conservative incompetency. We've learned now that the government has known for the past 18 months that the Foreign Temporary Workers Program was having an adverse effect on youth employment. 18 months before they decided to take any action. For 18 months, the Minister of Employment ignored the advice of his officials. He didn't do anything. Why? Did the minister stick his head in the sand while this program was pushing young people to unemployment? And why did it take the media and the opposition to get involvement to get him to take some action? The Honourable Minister.
Precisely why we began reforming the Temporary Foreign Worker Program in 2012. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Employment cited specifically youth unemployment as a reason to make these reforms. One of the new requirements, which, by the way, the NDP did not support, is that workers would have to show that they have aggressively pursued hiring people who are underrepresented, like youth, like people with disabilities, like Aboriginal Canadians. Mr. Speaker, the changes are delivering results. We want to ensure that Canadians, young Canadians, Aboriginal Canadians, Canadians with disabilities, all Canadians are first when it comes to jobs in Canada.
Member from Newton North Delta.
Youth unemployment is at 14% and Conservatives are making it worse. That minister was warned 18 months ago that the Temporary Foreign Worker Program was making it harder for young people to find jobs. He was warned that the industries that are the top employers of young workers were filling those jobs with temporary foreign workers. He did nothing until CBC shone the light. That minister sat on this information for over a year while our young people were denied jobs. Why?
The Honourable Minister of State for Employment.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is we have made major reforms that started in 2012, 2013, and just recently. But, Mr. Speaker, when we're talking about youth unemployment, certainly we want the Temporary Foreign Worker Program to not exclude any Canadian. But there are a lot of other things that we're doing to help young people get jobs. Things like the apprenticeship grants, apprenticeship job creation tax credit, tradesperson tools deduction tax credit. Mr. Speaker, there's a list of things that we're doing to ensure that young people get trained for the jobs available. Things like the Canada Job Grant. They voted against every one of those initiatives. Instead, they want to create big bureaucracies, raise taxes, and kill jobs, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Parkdale High Park.
Well, except, Mr. Speaker, that none of this is working because we still have persistently high unemployment in this country. The Conservatives have watched while over 400,000 manufacturing jobs have disappeared and middle-class families in southwestern Ontario are paying the price.
Right.
800 at John Deere in Welland, 2,000 at GM in Oshawa, 2,500 at Ford and Sterling and St. Thomas. So the tax write-down on new manufacturing equipment is expected to expire at the end of this year. How can manufacturers invest and create middle-class jobs when the finance minister is delaying the budget and leaving them in limbo?
Excellent. The Honourable Minister of Industry.
First, this 400,000 job number that the NDP keeps wheeling out has been disproven in Maclean's magazine. She should pick it up and understand that, Mr. Speaker. The NDP math on this is a joke. So too is the joke of the NDP pretending that they're in favor of tax cuts for small business. We put forward the accelerated capital cost allowance. The NDP voted against it. We've expanded free trade that is creating jobs in Southwest Ontario. The NDP has voted against it. She talks about the auto sector. We put in place the Auto Innovation Fund that's creating 1,200 new jobs in Oakville. She voted against it, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to the unemployment rate, it's gone from 7.2 to 6.5%.
The honourable member for Skeena-Vokey Valley.
We get our stats from Stats Canada. They get theirs from Maclean's and Kijiji, and they call themselves competent. Job growth at its lowest level in 5 years, labour participation at its lowest level in 15 years, and the Prime Minister's spokesperson just said the economy is doing spectacular. They've delayed their budget and are arrogantly refusing to meet with Canada's premiers. The provinces are here to talk about solutions to our anemic job growth, our growing infrastructure needs, and our weakening energy sector. The premiers are meeting just down the street, for heaven's sakes. All the Prime Minister has to do is roll out of bed, get in the limo, and show them a little respect. With tens of thousands of Canadians losing their jobs, when's this Prime Minister going to do his?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I just said, the Prime Minister has met with his counterparts over 300 times, Mr. Speaker. And when you look at Canada's economy in comparison to our partners around the world, we are and will continue to be the envy of the world, Mr. Speaker. We will always reject the Liberal and NDP priorities of raising taxes on Canadian families, killing jobs, and running high debt, Mr. Speaker. That's not our priority on this side of the House. Our priority is continuing to grow on the close to 1.2 million jobs that we've created, helping our manufacturers, not transitioning out of manufacturing like the Liberals and NDP would do, Mr. Speaker, on every single matter that counts to Canadians. Lower taxes, lower debt. They can count on us.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, Canadian Forces members have been in Iraq for months now, and we still don't know the exact nature of the mission. The Chief of the Defence Staff stated at committee today, and I quote, "For now, there are very few members of the Canadian Armed Forces on the ground." Does that mean that the government plans to send more troops to fight in Iraq?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
The member says she doesn't know the object of the mission. It's to fight ISIL terrorists, Mr. Speaker. That's what it's all about. And that's exactly what we are doing with our Special Operations Forces, Mr. Speaker, and the attacks by our fighters out of Kuwait. That's what we're doing. We're doing the right thing. We're standing up to these terrorists at home and abroad.
The Honourable Member for St. John's East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, before the Joint Committee meeting on the mission in Iraq, the Chief of Defence Staff said that he gave the order that Special Forces could call in airstrikes at the front lines as part of the Advise and Assist mission. He described this as an evolution and agreed the situation had changed. Mr. Speaker, Canada is now an outlier in its operations compared with our allies. Was the Minister of Defence aware of this expansion of the mission, and did he give...
Order. The Honourable Member for St. John's East still has a few seconds left to finish putting his question. Members should wait until he's finished before they make comments. The Honourable Member for St. John's East.
Mr. Speaker, was the Minister of Defence aware of this expansion of the mission, and did he give his approval?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Special Forces is to advise and assist. Yes, there is progress being made. And as before the committee this morning, it was pointed out that the Iraqis are making progress in retaking their territory and solidifying that the areas that they already control. I appreciate the honourable member and his party want nothing to do with this in the sense they cannot support it, but I think most Canadians support this fight against ISIL and terrorism, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for St. John's East.
Mr. Speaker, there's an issue requiring the Minister's immediate attention. That's the continuing tragedy of suicide by Canadian Armed Forces members. Sadly, there were 19 suicides in 2014, one of the highest levels in the last decade. In fact, suicide has now claimed the lives of more Canadian soldiers than combat in Afghanistan. DND has rightly pointed out that this is related to the, quote, significant increase in post-traumatic stress disorder in the Canadian Armed Forces. Can the Minister of Defence tell us if there will be new measures in the forthcoming budget to deal with this serious crisis?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
thoughts and prayers go out to all military families who have lost loved ones. And we have significantly increased investments in mental health services over the years. We now have over 400 full-time mental health care workers. This is one of the highest ratios in NATO, and it's appropriately so, Mr. Speaker, because we have to give them the help that they need. Mr. Speaker, this is a priority with this government.
The honourable member for Trinity Spadina.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I asked the Finance Minister to announce his municipal infrastructure budget for Canada's cities and to do it now. He ducked the question. He's not just hiding his budget, he's hiding under his desk. In town halls across Canada, mayors are asking for a partner in Ottawa. Here's part of what one city, Regina, is looking for. $30 million for a new transit facility, $38 million for highway overpasses, $67 million for the rail yard revitalization project. Doesn't this minister want a strong Regina? Doesn't he want people working in Regina? Why won't the finance minister release the budget for municipalities and get the money flowing now?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let me recap what municipalities have asked for and what our government, our Conservative government, has delivered. Mr. Speaker, municipalities wanted a long-term infrastructure commitment. We did that. 10 years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they wanted the most significant investment in infrastructure in Canadian history. We did that, $53 billion over the next decade. They wanted the gas tax fund doubled. We did that. They wanted it made permanent. We did that. They wanted it more flexible. We did that. Mr. Speaker, we are delivering for Canadian municipalities.
The honourable member for Trinity Spadina.
The knocking we're hearing is the finance minister's knees beneath his desk. Yesterday I met Cecil Clark, the mayor of Sydney from Nova Scotia. I asked him about how much federal money he was going to get this year. The answer? I don't know. In fact, federal infrastructure has been cut by 90%, and in Cape Breton, that means no money last year, no money the year before. Nothing, not a penny from Ottawa. Cape Breton needs a federal partner. They're looking for $60 million to remediate the harbour, $450 million for a new water plant. What do they get from this minister? Nothing. He's afraid to answer questions. This city, every city across the country, needs an answer. Where's the budget? Where's the money? Where's the commitment? Get it here now.
And the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the preamble to that question is horse hockey. The new Building Canada plan has been open for business since last March. In less than a year, Mr. Speaker, infrastructure projects representing almost $5 billion $5 billion have already been approved, Mr. Speaker. Some of these projects include public transit in Edmonton, highway systems in Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick, and the airport expansion in Brandon, Manitoba. Mr. Speaker, we are getting this job done.
The honourable member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, in June, the Veterans Committee published a report in which every member agreed on immediate changes necessary to the new Veterans Charter, which the government keeps kicking down the road. Recommendations like ensuring enough caseworkers so veterans like Ron Clark aren't forced to wait up to 6 weeks for assistance. The government has had over 6 months to act on the recommendations. Will the minister confirm he will table by tomorrow an update on their progress on implementing these recommendations and provide a concrete timeline for when veterans can finally expect the changes that they have all been pleading for?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as that member well knows, and if he doesn't, he should ask his colleague from Markham Unionville, when the Liberals created the new Veterans Charter, we implemented it over the course of our government. The sad part is, every time we've made investments to improve the new Veterans Charter, who's voted against it? The Liberal Party who created it, Mr. Speaker. We are committed to updating the Standing Committee on our progress on their recommendations, not just in this week, but throughout the coming months, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Sackville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 83-year-old disabled veteran Basil McAllister of Burton, New Brunswick, fought the Department of Veterans Affairs through the Review Board for 10 years, along with 2 court decisions, Mr. Speaker, to finally realize his compensation benefits, respectfully because of the chemical spraying at Gagetown. In 2005, the Prime Minister, then opposition leader, said that everyone affected by the spraying will be cared for. Thousands upon thousands of military and their families and civilians are without proper compensation to care for the terrible injuries they suffered from the chemical spraying at Gagetown. Will the government now do the right thing and ensure all of them will get the proper dignity they so rightfully deserve?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for that question, and more importantly, I'd like to thank Mr. McAllister for his service to Canada and for being a passionate, engaging advocate. As the member well knows, because he's been in this House some time, several years ago our government committed
Is translation working now?
Is it English to French that's the... English to French is the problem. Is it working now? Est-ce que fonctionne maintenant? Is it working? Okay. All right. It seems to be fixed, so I'll allow the Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs to answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I started by thanking, of course, Mr. McAllister, a veteran who served our country and someone who's been an engaging advocate. Hopefully that pause allowed my colleague from Sackville Eastern Shore to process the time he was in this House when this government committed $100 million to address historical claims related to that base, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Châteauguay Saint-Constant. Once again, recently the government spent almost $700,000 in court fees to fight our veterans. I'm not sure the government understands that the men and women that they're fighting right now are those who fought to defend our values, principles, and way of life. So why would the government rather litigate veterans instead of providing the services that they have earned? Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as that member knows, many of his colleagues voted for the new Veterans Charter, which is at the root of that lawsuit. I would remind him as well, though, as our government has continued to update and invest in items that the Liberals missed in the new Veterans Charter, his party and his fellow critic have voted against that every time, Mr. Speaker. My sincere hope is that he can get on board as we continue to improve a program that is working for many and we need to make sure works for all.
The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard. Well, Mr. Speaker, we can't fault the Conservatives for being inconsistent, because whether it be veterans or refugees, the Conservatives would rather go to court than offer the services that these people need and deserve. This legal obsession has meant that Canadians have spent $1.4 million to fight refugees and their children. And what have they got from that? Well, a decision from the court saying that the Conservative policies are inhuman. Instead of keeping their lawyers busy, why aren't the Conservatives looking after the health of asylum seekers? Honourable Minister of Citizenship and Immigration. Mr. Speaker, we are very happy with our reform of the asylum system, which is working much better than in the past. And it's, again, incomprehensible for us to understand why the NDP wants to give health care to failed asylum seekers, fraudulent asylum seekers. That's what they're asking for. We will continue to protect the interests and the health care of refugees as well as all taxpayers.
For Davenport.
Instead of building a country where no one gets left behind, this government goes to court to try to ensure that people get left behind. And, you know, those court costs come right out of the pockets of hard-working Canadians. Now, we know that the Justice Department spent more than $1.4 million defending a refugee policy that the federal court called cruel and unusual. So a simple question for the Minister for Citizenship and Immigration. I'm sure he has the numbers right there in front of him. How much has his department spent fighting a vindictive campaign against refugees?
The Honourable Minister of Citizenship and Immigration.
Why does the member opposite insist on fighting a vindictive campaign against honesty? We have done nothing but support the health of refugees, Mr. Speaker. What we object to is that asylum claimants who have failed to be deemed refugees by the Immigration Refugee Board, some of whom have fraudulent and bogus claims, should not receive gold-plated health care that goes beyond what Canadians receive. That is why we are the only party in this place standing up for Canadian taxpayers and the only party that will speak honestly about protection of the health care of refugees.
Honourable member for Calgary West.
This measure will save taxpayers over $6 million per year by reducing the cost for milk.
Order. There was a slight malfunction with the microphone when the member started, so I think they're ready to go now. If he wants to restart his question, I think the minister might need to hear the whole question in order to be able to answer.
Mr. Speaker, recently we learned that Corrections Canada has replaced milk with powdered milk at all of its prisons. This measure will save taxpayers over $6 million per year by reducing the cost for milk by over 40%. However, this does not sit well with the hug-a-thug crowd in the NDP. The member for Shefford said yesterday that it lacks decency to serve powdered milk to convicted murderers and rapists. Can the Minister of Public Safety tell this House if the government agrees with the NDP member from Shefford?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, our government is a strong defender of Canadians. The NDP would like to put criminals before taxpayers and before victims, Mr. Speaker. The goal of federal prisons is rehabilitation. They are not gastronomic restaurants.
To put victims first and make our streets and communities safer.
The Honourable Member for York South-West.
Mr. Speaker, 41 seniors at the Beach Hall Housing Co-op in my riding are at risk of becoming homeless as a direct result of Conservatives' refusal to renew federal funding. Why doesn't this government recognize its responsibility to ensure that the most vulnerable are not left behind and made homeless? Why are Conservatives putting vulnerable seniors in my riding at risk by refusing to renew funding?
The Honourable Minister of State.
Mr. Speaker, the reason that funding is not being renewed is because mortgages are generally paid off, and when the mortgages are paid off, the agreements end. Mr. Speaker, what we have done, though, because provinces are in charge of housing, it's their jurisdiction, we provided funding to the provinces to the tune of $1.25 billion. We've allowed them the flexibility if they want to help co-ops where the agreements have expired, they definitely can do that. So we provided support in that way. We've also provided support in previous budgets whereby we've helped retrofit and provided new buildings in other budgets. So we're following through on commitments and we're helping the provinces do their job.
The Honourable Member for Hochelaga.
There is no mortgage, they lease the building.
We cannot stand by and do nothing. Over 1.5 million families have inadequate housing in Canada. That's 1.5 million families. We are one of the richest countries in the world, and we can't even house our families properly. That's utterly crazy. Will the government finally act and support our motion to renew investment in social housing? The Honourable Minister of State.
We've done more than that. In fact, Mr. Speaker, we have a homelessness partnering strategy to help those who are chronically and episodically homeless. We also, Mr. Speaker, have provided funds to the provinces who are in charge of housing. But here's another idea for the NDP. How about helping Canadians, those who are vulnerable, to have more money in their pockets so that they can afford the housing in their regions, Mr. Speaker? How about things like keeping taxes low, creating jobs and opportunity for them? Things like the universal child care benefit expansion and increase. Instead, Mr. Speaker, the NDP want to create huge bureaucracies, increase the debt on all Canadians, and make vulnerable Canadians even more vulnerable.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Mr. Speaker, it's because of the NDP we believe that having a roof is a right, unlike the Conservatives. The Conservatives are so incompetent, they're so incompetent that despite paying private consultants $60 million a year, they can't process access to information requests. If they just answered instead of dragging their feet, there wouldn't be a problem. If the Prime Minister's office, instead of wanting to control everything and act like a busybody, just answered the questions, there wouldn't be a problem. When will the Conservatives realize that it's their lack of transparency and their culture of secrecy that are clogging up the ATI system?
Mr. Speaker, our government treats taxpayer money with the utmost of respect. Professional services are needed to acquire special expertise and to meet unexpected fluctuations in workload. In some cases, the government contracts with private sector companies to deliver or improve services without maintaining an expensive government bureaucracy. Professional service contracting means the government is only paying people when there is work to be done. Professional service costs are down $200 million since 2010-11, and temporary help services are down $11 million, Mr. Speaker, since last year, and by $75 million since 2010-11. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Victoria.
By now, Conservatives have become famous for the way they've sabotaged our access to information system. But now we've discovered that instead of using professional, non-partisan public servants to do the job access to information requests require, Health Canada is paying private consultants over $200 an hour to do the job. And the replies you get are slower, with more information being held back. Mr. Speaker, it's bad enough to block Canadians from seeing what their own government is doing. Why does the minister waste so much money doing it?
The Honourable
Mr. Speaker, we take the issue of openness and transparency at Health Canada very seriously. We want to build the utmost confidence in our regulatory framework, and that is why we've embarked on our transparency and openness framework in the last year. And Mr. Speaker, we want to make sure that any access to information request that comes in is addressed quickly. People have the right to know things about whether it's medical devices or the drugs that their families are using.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Westmount, Ville-Marie. Mr. Speaker, when our special forces were deployed to Iraq, the Prime Minister explicitly promised this House that they were there to advise and assist and not to accompany. Last week, we learned that our troops are on the front lines helping to identify targets for airstrikes. Can the minister explain to this House how this mission, which was initially to advise and assist, became a mission where our troops are on the front lines and are participating in combat operations? The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, the government has been very clear. They are there to advise and assist, Mr. Speaker, and as well, they are conducting airstrikes out of Kuwait. The government's position is very clear, but after the doublespeak I heard from the Liberals earlier today, I have no idea where they were. Could he confirm that they're still on side with their colleagues in the NDP?
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this is too important an issue to be speciously insulting like that. Mr. Speaker, today at committee, the Ministers of Defence and Foreign Affairs did a spectacular job of not providing any new information or...
Order. The Honourable Member for Vancouver Quadra still has the floor, and I'll ask members to come to order. The Honourable Member.
Mr. Speaker, today at committee, the Ministers of Defence and Foreign Affairs did a spectacular job of not providing answers or new information to Canadians who deserve it. They still won't provide a mission cost estimate, as our allied countries have done and as Canada has done in the past. But I'd like to ask about a next step and a real answer for a change. When the Iraqi forces begin to push in earnest to recapture ISIL territory, will Canadian forces continue to accompany them to the front lines on that advance?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
I want to be very clear, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to advise and assist, which is exactly what we are doing. Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are supportive of the Iraqis and the air and with our special forces, and that's going to continue. Again, Mr. Speaker, I would be very interested to hear exactly where the Liberals are. They're all over the map on this one, and I think they should do some explaining.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Well, Mr. Speaker, today on Parliament Hill, Canadians are calling for action to free Raif Badawi. Sentenced in Saudi Arabia to 1,000 lashes, he has received 50 lashes and faces hundreds more, and Canadians fear for his very life. How many lashes will it take before this government uses direct action? Canadians expect their government to take clear, strong stands against human rights violations. What kind of real pressure will the minister put on the government of Saudi Arabia to pardon this free speech activist?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you very much. I want to thank my friend opposite for the question. Canada considers the punishment of Mr. Badawi to be an insult to human dignity. It's an extreme concern for us. We continue to call for clemency in this case. The promotion and protection of human rights are tremendously important in Canada's foreign policy. While Mr. Badawi is not a Canadian citizen, I want to assure the member opposite and the whole House that we will continue to advocate on his behalf.
The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, for the last couple of weeks, we've been hearing the same words, but still no concrete actions. How many more vigils and marches like the one that took place in Ottawa today will it take before the government understands the gravity of the situation? Raif Badawi is still in prison and is still sentenced to 1,000 lashes, and all over a blog. What is the government's plan? When will the minister pick up the phone and call his colleagues in Saudi Arabia to ensure that Raif Badawi is freed as quickly as possible? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Because I spoke to Saudi officials directly more than a week ago.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, recently our government was awarded the Golden Scissors Award, not by the Hairdressing Association, but by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business for cutting taxes for small business when they are filing their taxes. Now, cutting red tape is something that residents of my constituency are really concerned about, and I'd like to hear from the Minister of National Revenue what our government is doing to eliminate red tape for small businesses.
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue.
I'd like to thank the member for Calgary Centre for that question and her advocacy on this issue. We're committed to keeping taxes low and ensuring that Canada remains one of the very best places in the world to do business. When we lead to reduce red tape, we free small businesses to grow. We're standing up for employers and job creation. Today, the overall federal tax burden is at its lowest level in over 50 years. We also know that, in contrast, the Liberals and NDP would reverse that and increase taxes and the burden.
Honourable Member for Lac St. Louis.
What was suggested to me in a briefing note by the Minister's office, Health Canada had the authority to regulate the reprocessing of surgical instruments and other single-use medical devices well before Vanessa's law. But the government has been remiss in using this authority. So far, only one type of reprocessed single-use device has been licensed, a low-risk one at that, and the reprocessor apparently applied for the license on its own initiative, not at the request of the department. When will the government finally produce a robust system for certifying reprocessed medical devices? Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Speaker, and the member is correct that this issue did come to light, and I thank him for the work that he's done on this when discussing Vanessa's law at committee, and I can assure him that this issue is with the department, with Health Canada, and if he'd like to discuss it further with me, I'd be happy to do that.
Honourable Member for Surrey North.
Mr. Speaker, hundreds of truckers and their families depend on their work at Port Metro Vancouver. Last year, an agreement was negotiated in good faith to end the strike at the port. Now, truckers are understandably upset. They're still waiting for this agreement to be honored. Last week, the port instituted a new licensing system that is raising a lot of concern in the trucking industry. And all the while, Mr. Speaker, Liberal and Conservative governments continue to play political football with hardworking middle-class families. What is the minister doing to avoid future disruptions at Port Metro Vancouver and help these families now?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, the Port of Metro Vancouver is a critical hub for transportation in this country, and that's why we invested so much in the infrastructure in that gateway. Mr. Speaker, it is true that we had a disruption last year. As a result, the province of British Columbia has set up a new truck commissioner, a new truck commission that will be available to the truckers in order to ensure that there is smooth transit out there. The Port of Metro Vancouver has also revised its trucking license system. There will be some members of the trucking community who will not receive licenses, but we are providing transition assistance, Mr. Speaker, through the Port of Metro Vancouver for those who are affected.
For Medicine Hat.
Mr. Speaker, this past November, the Minister of International Trade launched the Go Global workshops to provide Canadian small and medium-sized enterprises with the tools they need to seize new opportunities created by the most ambitious pro-jobs and pro-export plan in Canadian history. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade please update this House on the progress of these workshops and how this government is helping to boost Canadian exports and jobs? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the Honourable Member from Medicine Hat for his question. Mr. Speaker, today the Minister of International Trade is in Kitchener-Waterloo hosting the Go Global workshops, which provides SMEs with the tools, services and information they need to succeed. And by tomorrow, over 500 participants will be reached. Our government is committed to working shoulder to shoulder with Canadian SMEs in every sector across the country to seize export opportunities and create jobs. Mr. Speaker, only this Conservative government can be trusted to create jobs and opportunities by advancing pro-export, pro-jobs plan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Haute-Gaspésie-Lamity ce matin, Metapedia. Mr. Speaker, an independent study undertaken in Quebec and published today confirms that the fears of our communities concerning a possible oil spill from the Energy East pipeline are well-founded. We've learned that the systems planned by TransCanada cannot detect a spill with a flow rate less than 1.5%, which is equal to 2.6 million litres a day, and that it could take weeks before the disaster is detected. Will the minister acknowledge the negative impact this will have on municipalities, both those affected by the pipeline and by the proposed port, whether it's in Lévis, Kakuna, or Baie des Sables? The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources. We are not taking position before the review is finished. The National Energy Board will hear from those directly affected. It will obtain the necessary information to determine what to do. We will base our decisions on science and on facts. We have been clear. These projects will be studied and allowed to go forward only if we know that Canadians are protected and that the environment is protected. The Honourable Member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are showing no interest in protecting the gains of the middle class. They prefer to claim that the economy cannot survive if we respect agreements that have been signed in the past. But seniors are losing out because of the unfair policies of this government, and that's just unacceptable. What are government members waiting for to improve our laws that protect pensions and so protect our seniors, who are getting poorer by the day? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Well, we agree that it's important to protect seniors, Mr. Speaker, and that's why the Minister of Finance has been acting with a serious approach in this file to protect seniors.
Today, before moving on to the Thursday question, I wonder if members would indulge the Speaker taking advantage of my position to wish Regina native John Ryan, who is also related, my brother-in-law, in a relatively large sporting event on Sunday. If we can, and there's another Canadian as well, Luke Wilson from LaSalle, Ontario. I know some of my colleagues from the Windsor area. If we can wish these two Canadians the best of luck on Sunday's game, I know the Speaker would appreciate it. Colleagues will join me in that. It's relatively shameless of me, but of course it's not for me that I point this out, but for the University of Regina Rams program and the high school football in Saskatchewan, it's a mark of great honor for us to watch him play in the Super Bowl. Thank you, colleagues. Now the Thursday question, the Honourable Member for Burnaby, New Westminster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I can only say as a British Columbia, go Seahawks. We'll have to see what the results are. Monsieur Président,
Mr. Speaker, there are 14 sitting weeks left before a decision is made on the part of our population.
In this Parliament, sitting weeks, and following that, of course, Mr. Speaker, the Canadian population will be able to decide on the fate of this government. As far as the NDP official opposition is concerned, our leader, the leader of the official opposition this week, talked about the NDP plan to kickstart good jobs in Canada, talking about measures to help small business, measures to help the manufacturing sector, measures to help research and development, Mr. Speaker. So those are some of the NDP priorities. I'd like to ask my colleague, the Government House Leader, what the agenda is for the government in the week to come, and when is that budget going to be tabled in this House of Commons?
The Honourable